You've been thinking about becoming a social worker? Here's what I have learned so far. So, if you want to get a degree in social work, typically it requires you to have a bachelor's degree at minimum. So, you can do one of two things. Either you can go to a community college and complete your prereqs or your core classes there and then transfer over to a university, or you can just go ahead and go to a 4-year university. So, if you do decide, let's just say you decide to go to the university, you do have to complete like your core classes. And typically you have to, I want to say, complete at least 56 hours before you can apply for what they call the professional program. Now, when you're in that program, you do have to maintain a 2.5 GPA. You cannot let your GPA drop below a 2.5. At least that's how it was when I was in school. Now, my recommendation to you would be, do not, under any circumstance, let your GPA drop below a 3.0, because you do not want to end up in the same boat that I was in. Do not let your GPA drop below a 3.0, especially if you plan on getting your master's degree in social work. Now, you are going to have to complete a field placement. Typically, the field placement is about 450 hours. And that the field placement is basically you working out in the field with another social worker that has her master's degree. They may even have a clinical license. But you're working out in the field with them. You're actively working with clients. You're being trained. Typically, you have to expect to be at your field placement between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. because you have to be there when that social worker with the master's degree is there working. You can't just be there working when they're not there. So my school had it set up where you had to do at least 16 hours per week. Like at minimum, you had to do 16 hours per week. I would say maybe if you were working full time, the best way to work that is maybe work on the weekends and then work 3 days during the week at your own job, and then maybe do your field placement the other 2 days of the week. Okay. Now, once you have completed your classes and then you're getting ready to graduate or whatever, you graduate. Let's say you graduate. Then you're eligible to sit in for the license exam, which means that you're trying to become a licensed bachelor's social worker. Now, you do have to apply to get approval to sit in for the exam first. Typically, that's gonna consist of you completing an application that's gonna ask you about your past work history. It's gonna ask you about what school you went to, just to make sure you're legit. And then after you get that approval, then they'll send you some paperwork saying that you can go ahead and apply for what date that you want to take the test. After you take the test and pass, you will be considered a licensed bachelor's social worker. Now, that test does cost, I wrote it down, I want to say, yeah, it does cost $230. So the whole process of getting the approval and actually sitting in for the exam, that is $230. Let's just say that you decide, okay, I got my bachelor's degree in social work, now I want to get my license degree in social work. Then you still got to go back to school and take some more classes. Typically, when you get ready to take those classes, you can choose one or two ways. You can do the advanced standing, which is like 42 hours, or you can do the traditional route, which is like 60 credit hours. Now, the advanced standing is typically for people who already have a bachelor's degree in social work. People who typically take the 60-hour credit, they typically don't have a bachelor's degree in social work. So they're taking all those classes that you would have completed when you was in the process of getting your bachelor's degree. So you can choose one of those, okay? Now, when you are applying for advanced standing, let's say you decide to go that route because you already got your bachelor's degree in social work, you cannot get no more than 1C in your concentration classes and 1C in your foundation courses. You can't get no more than 1C when you're trying to apply for the master's program. So keep that in mind. Now, for both programs, when you're trying to get ready to apply, you have to have a 3.0 for your last 60 hours, your last 60 credits that you completed, or a 3.0 GPA overall. So in addition to applying for the program, you also have to complete what they call a statement of purpose. So this is when you are initially getting ready to submit that application to get into the master's program. You also have to complete a statement of purpose. That paper is going to be about 5 to 6 pages long. Also, you have to get letters of recommendation. I want to say when I was in school, I had to do 3 letters of recommendation. And it kind of works the same way as the bachelor's program. You go ahead, you complete your classes, then you do your field placement. The only difference between the advanced standing really and the traditional one is that in the advanced standing, since you took most of your classes when you was getting your bachelor's degree, you're only doing technically one field placement. Whereas for the traditional path, then you're doing two field placements because you didn't do that since you don't already have a bachelor's degree. Not only that, with that, I don't think I said it, with the advanced standing program, that program is about a year long. But with the traditional program, that is about 2 years long, which makes sense because this is typically for people who do not have a bachelor's degree in social work already. And like I said, it works the same way. You go ahead, you complete your classes, you complete your field placement, and then we're back to that same spot where you have to take the test again. So you have to go through the whole process of getting approval to take the test, and then they send you the date that you can schedule for the test after you get approval, and then you take the test. Once you pass the test, now you consider a licensed master level social worker or a licensed master social worker. That test, once again, that's another $230 that you'll have to pay. At least I think that's how much it was when I took my test. Something that I learned, being that it took me 3 tries to pass my test before I got my license. I think I missed it by, if I'm remembering it correctly, I missed it 2 points the first time and then 3 points the second time, and then I finally passed on the third try. Something that I learned is that if you miss it within 10 points, instead of you having to wait that 90 days before you can go take the test again, you can apply for a waiver. You can't miss it by more than 10 points. And a waiver just means that it's shortened the amount of time that you have to wait to go retake the exam. So keep that in mind. Now, being that now you consider a licensed master social worker, now you can start working on becoming a clinical social worker if that's something that you want to do. Typically, in order to become a clinical social worker, you do have to complete 3,000 hours of direct contact with clients. And you also have to complete 100 hours with the person that has a clinical license that's training you. So 3,000 hours with clients, and then 100 hours with the person that's like supervising you. And then once again, after you complete your hours, your training, you have to sit in for another test. It's another test. So you do the whole thing again with the whole approval, and then you do the whole thing again with them telling you that you can get a date to get signed up to actually go take the exam. So it's the same old. And then you pass the exam, then you consider a licensed clinical social worker. Now the LCSW exam does cost about $260. So in order to sit in for that, you got to pay $260. The LCSW is the highest license that you can get within social work. I have seen some people go ahead and get like their doctorate degree in social work, but typically people do that if they're planning on maybe being a teacher, or for some people it helps them with advancement as far as where they're currently working or where they plan to work. So it looks good on your resume. And you're probably going, well, Francesca, once I get the degree, like, where can I work? Like, what can I use this degree for? So when you get your degree in social work, you can work in the government. You can work for a nonprofit. You can work at a mental health clinic. You can work in corrections. You can even become a traveling social worker. So it's so many options for being a social worker. I actually feel, and people might disagree with this, but this is just something that I personally feel it's better to get a social work degree as opposed to a degree in therapy. I do, because I feel like you can do so much more with a social work degree than you can with a therapy degree. So far I feel that I've had a good experience as far as completing my degree. And yeah, the only hang up that I really had, I struggled a little bit with passing the test, but outside of that, I've had a really good experience. So would I recommend you become a social worker? Absolutely. Something that you're going to hear people say a lot is you can't make money being a social worker. I feel like it's all in where you work sometimes. I also feel it's all in what you ask for. If you don't ask for it, how are they going to give? Like, don't sell yourself short. You absolutely, positively can make money in social work. You absolutely can. Now, will I say it's better to have maybe a master's degree in social work as opposed to a bachelor's degree? Yeah, I feel like you have more options when you have a master's degree as opposed to a bachelor's degree. Can you still go get jobs and make a living? Yeah, but in my opinion, I just feel like I shouldn't say that because I didn't really work with my bachelor's degree, but I don't know. I just feel like you just have more options available to you when you have a master's degree in social work. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, you probably will make more money with your LC too, but I feel that the most important degree to get is probably going to be that LMSW. And that's just my opinion. Other people might feel different.